put 2 lines on it. Just to show you some example. So let's say that, in the documents, when we say something that which is not right, let's say that we say the word company here. So if you don't want this word, right, what are you going to do? Just scratch it, right? Especially when you are writing your notes. When I was working for a Japanese company, you know what they do? Say company. If you don't want this word, you have to do this. 1 line, 2 line. That is the standard way. And also, what kind of color of pen you usually using right now? What color? Black or blue? Blue? Any? All blue? Black, right. This company require the whole organization have to use black color pen. I was thinking of, come on, what's the important thing, because American people don't particularly care about, black or blue, right? Nope. This company very concerned. Now, so that is what we consider attention to details. So when you're working with a new company, especially, you have to be a little bit more careful, This could be the company policy or could be your boss policy. The other one is outcome orientation. And outcome orientation is like some organizations will very much focus on the outcome, the result, instead of concerning about how you do it. I know that a lot of, like marketing company to have this culture, they don't care what you're going to do, but they just want to make sure that you have to fit you have to fulfill the contract or the quotas, So if you work for this kind of company, that probably will affect the way that how you do your selling, right? Because the boss don't particularly care if you jeopardize the long run, the customers' image or the organization image. They're just saying that make sure that we achieve the objective. Now the other one is people orientation. Now, people orientation means that some of the organization, they really care about the workers. And in other words, is that they put more focus on the workers itself. Now, I know there was a company in America. Because in Hong Kong, they don't have this research, so I don't know. How about the company in Hong Kong? These organizations in America, they're called Home Depot. They sell home repair things. It's a very big company. I went there myself too, because sometimes I have to get some of the things to, maintain the house, like the faucet, the water faucet. If it is broken, then I'll go and buy one. I don't quite enjoy going there because it's all the guys, the men's room place. After I look at the research finding, the survey, they find that this company is the best company in America that people like to work there. So I was wondering why, And after interview, talking to the people there, they find out that one of the reasons why people like to work there is because they are people orientations. They care about the worker very much. So you'll be surprised. Outside the society, say that we have a lot of unemployment, but people saying that difficult to hire good people. Home Depot actually have people waiting to get hired. They are not particularly good pay, but because the company have this kind of images that, who is it? Can you turn off your microphone? Who is it? Please. So people orientation is maybe one thing that it is good for a certain company. Now, but of course, not all companies will be so much concerned about just people. The other is team orientation. Now, team orientation means that some of the organization really encourage people to work as a team. They concern about teamwork. They concern about team performance, and they reward workers in a team. Now here, when we look at this, it's not saying which way is better. We're just saying that there are two ways to run the company, and some company are more go towards one way or the others. Um, Team orientation, I would say, if you are the one that who do not like to work for the others, you probably don't enjoy working there, because everything they set up, the job assignment and other structure, they are more concerned that you are working as a team. Next one is aggressiveness. Now this one you understand, right? Some people are very mellow, not particular think of making money, but some companies are very aggressive, thinking of expand their market and concerned about new development. So I was saying that if you're working for Apple, they are very aggressive company. So you can feel it, that company will always saying that how much you want to, how much you achieve already. The other one I would say kind of different from aggressiveness is the stability. That means the organization really more concerned about maintain the way it is instead of thinking expanding the company, because this is really depends on the boss, what they are they like and what they plan to do. Now the other one, of course, is innovations and risk taking. Some of the organization, yes, enjoy like to have risk, and what they want is the satisfaction is more for creativities. The company called Tesla. Tesla is that the guy Elon Musk is the one that who push for no driver's car. So we say auto driving, and actually this guy is very, I was saying, they're very innovative and very risk taking. So it really depends if you like to work for a company with that kind of organization cultures. All right, now so organization culture have many. Some of the little thing is like, do you want to go to work on time? But of course in here we want to look at the big picture, is that is the organization concern details, are they outcome oriented, they care about people, or they care about teamwork, or aggressive or not. Now so it's not a matter of good or bad, but that is the type of organizations that people will work there and behave. All right, now so you say, okay, so why we have to know all about this? Um, real concern is in many organizations, one culture actually is dominant, emphasized more than the others. Now, so in other words, is that company at the beginning will have a weak culture, but as times go by, they are going to be very strong. But there is a possibility in the organization they will have more than one type of cultures. In the beginning, probably they will have conflicting behavior, but as times go by, one will dominate the others. Now, so sometimes, not exactly, we say office politics, right? Office politics could be because people want to get promotion, but also maybe because of a different organizational culture, within a different teams. So this is something that we need to concern. Also, because of this kind of so-called culture will affect a company, the whole setup and the whole operations. Now, for some of you, because you don't have working experience, that will be difficult to explain, what are the difference. But I like the textbook's example, showing you two very different kind of organizations, and that shows you that what the culture is affecting it. All right, a simple one, you understand it, and it'll be easier. Let's say we have two organizations. One is called A and one is called B. Now, the A one is like to take risks. Um, no, A is that they don't like to take risks. They discourage creativities, close managerial supervision, and they design all the work for the workers. Now, so if you like, you can think of this is a very old-fashioned Chinese organization, right? So the boss tell you what to do, you need to follow. They don't like creativities because it's high uncertainty. Now the other one, let's say that is a, let's say is a high tech company, all right, risk taking, change reward, creativities, managers trust the employee, and work design around teams. Now, so basically, we're saying one company is kind of old fashioned, the other one is a high tech company. Then what will happen? This make a very different culture in an organization. Now, both A and B are manufacturing firms, but each company emphasizes a different dimension that have shaped the organization culture. So I use, one is the old-fashioned Chinese, factory. The other one is like Apple. They are different, and that is what we mean by the cultural difference. Now, of course, in the real situations, you will have something called strong culture. Strong culture basically is saying that people really have a key values, and they committed to it is very strong, and everybody. The other one is what we call it weak. Weak means that people are not really work so well together and share the same value. Okay, now again, maybe good that we look at some of the example. When we say strong culture, for example, we say the values widely shared, very consistent message. That means that everybody believe in the same thing, and everyone, like strongly identify with the culture and share the values and behavior. So if it is weak, probably we say that a group of people will believe it, but not all everybody's. Usually is the boss, right? And the message sometimes is the same, sometimes it's not. So it's difficult to share the same value. And the employee have little identification with the culture. That means the employee do not see that they fit into it. And not too many of them will share the same value and behavior. Usually, when workers in a weak culture, it is easier for them to leave the organization. Why? Because they don't feel like they have a lot of commitment to the company. They don't quite agree with the management's concept. So here it is not, again, not right or wrong, but it is different kind of culture we are thinking of. Now, for younger workers in the future, when you're going to work for a company, um, don't just tell me. If I ask you, two company, which one you like to work for? Usually, what the young people will say, this one will pay me more, or have a better title. Now, I was saying that to a certain extent, that is less important because do you like to work for that company? Is the organization culture that will affect? Will you enjoy working there? Like last week, we talked about my student who worked for a bus company. At the beginning, she was so excited. It's just like any young workers is saying that, oh, they pay me well, and they give me a good position, and they tell me to lead the change. Well, yes, sounds very good. But later on, we find out that the organization culture is just not feeding her. So what happens? She doesn't enjoy working there. Now, so organization culture actually is pretty serious, affecting that will worker enjoy working there. But honestly, if you are old-fashioned, you are the one that you are you prefer the boss to tell you what to do. You don't like to be too risk-taking. You may enjoy working for this kind of company because it's very stable. You enjoy it. But some people may like to work for this kind of organization. They're just saying that, oh, it's very challenging. So if you exchange it, you know people may not be enjoy doing it. So this is what we call the organization cultures and affect workers working there. Now, after finish all, looking at all this, we have another question is, if some company behave this way and this other company behave in the other way, so where is this culture come from? Where it started? Why? Because Some of times when we company want to change the direction, their strategies, they may have to change the culture. Otherwise, it won't work because people don't believe in it, right? So the next question is, if the culture is good, of course that will be easy. We just continue maintaining it, right? But what happens if the culture is not good? How are we going to change it? But before, of course, like we say all the time in management, before we're going to change it, we want to ask where the culture come from and why. Sometimes will continue and sometimes don't. Now, in order to understand and look at all this, let's look at, you know, how the culture come from, and actually quite interesting, that how that works. The first one is the founder, the one, the boss who start the company. Um, Usually the boss, he set up the company, he has his own value and what he think is more important. Now, let me use a very good company to explain that, and you all know it. McDonald's. Now, did you read anything about McDonald's or just eat their food? You know the background? Anything? Anyone? Um, the founder of McDonald's, actually, he was not really that educated. He was a salesman in America. Now, at that time, when you are a salesman, you will have to travel from city to city because American is big. Now, in Hong Kong, of course, is very small, and travel is not a big problem. Now, but in overseas, in America, if you go from city to city, you may have to drive 2-3 hours. And he was a salesman, so he had to travel all the time. Because he had to travel all the time, what happened? He will have to eat out. He cannot go home to eat, right? And of course, sometimes he required to stay in a hotel. So if he's going to stay in a hotel, then he have to eat outside too, right? Now, he was traveling around and then, seldom at home. He find out when he went out to eat, some store are very good, some restaurant are good, some are not good, and they are not very consistent, and some are expensive. Of course, that's the way it is because all restaurant owned by different owners. So he told himself, he said, one day, if I'm rich enough, I'm going to open my own restaurant. And I want to make sure that this restaurant have this 4 quality. Actually, that was McDonald's 4Q. Um, his concept is that whether it's good or bad, I want to make sure it is consistent. Consistent means that everywhere I go, is that I can meet the expectation. Like what type of food I have, and what about the price level. So it is the type of restaurant that customer will be able to expect what that is. It's consistent. Am I correct? Even in Hong Kong, we have some chain restaurant, and if you go to different one, they may be a little different. Especially, like some of the restaurant, you have, although it's the same name, but you have a different cook, right? So the food came out maybe a little different. Now, so McDonald don't like. He said he doesn't like that because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. You don't even know what will happen. Of course, he was very lucky. His dream come true. So he started up with McDonald. And when he started up McDonald, one thing he's saying that all my food is supposed to be consistent. In other words, using the same unique cooking method. And second is that they want to make sure it's clean. So how can you tell it is clean? They have an open kitchen. Are you aware of McDonald's have an open kitchen? You can look at inside what they are doing, right? And the third thing is they are very concerned about the cleanliness, or I was not saying that it's the front store cleanliness, but is that the kitchen's the system of producing the hamburger, the food. Um, that is what he likes, and that is what the culture he wants to develop for McDonald's. So what happened after all these years? McDonald's culture is still the same. Now, how? Um, in Hong Kong, I don't eat in McDonald's because I have too many better choices. Now, but when I travel to a new city which I'm not familiar with, one thing for sure is if I find McDonald's, I will go in. Why? One thing is you guarantee that McDonald's is selling the kind of food that you know what they have. Now, they may have one or two items which is localized, right? But the other things you can see, you walk in, definitely they will have Big Mac. They will have French fries, and they will have apple pie, and those kind of very basic things they will have. Now, as to the price, basically you still can consider them as a very, I would say that very economical price. But in Europe, it's much more expensive. I don't know why, but I guess it's the exchange rate, or we are not very used to, the European markets, the price itself. So McDonald's did give you a kind of feeling that worldwide, this is the things we are offering, and this is what you can expect. So I do think that the founder did an excellent job. So the image actually is from the startup from the founder, and then next would say that for smaller and most new organizations, they are easier to establish the culture. And once the culture is established, organization will continue to maintain it. Now, maintaining it, I will explain why. That later on I will explain that the maintenance, what it is all about. We start up with looking at the founder, right? So how are you going to maintain it? Because there's no rules and regulations. The next one is selection criteria. So if the boss have a certain kind of value that he wants, what will happen? When he hire people, he will try to hire the people who are similar like him, right? Now, this will be difficult to select because when you are just doing the interview, you may not be able to see um, exactly whether they have the same value. But usually, the founder will find someone what he thinks it is similar to what the value that he got. Even it is not, no problem. You know why? Because after the boss start working with this newcomer, let's say it's the assistant, the assistant will start, if you work for a boss, you will do the same thing, right? You will like to see what your boss like and what your boss don't like, right? So you will do things to please him, that you do things what he likes and you don't do things what he doesn't like. You know what? You are actually carrying his perception, his will to you, right? Now, if it doesn't, you say, I totally disagree with him. I cannot do what he likes. You may leave the company. Only those people who will willing and accept the boss opinion and value will stay on, right? Okay, now so from the founder, it translates this kind of concept to the assistant, to the next person, right? All right, let's say that the company is going to expand. The assistant will need to hire more workers too, right? It will do the same thing. After they hire the new workers, the new workers will see what the company like, what the boss like, and they will do it accordingly. If they don't like what the boss value or the principles, they will leave the company. So from the founder to his assistant. So to his assistant will start developing to all other workers. So from the criteria. Now, one thing again, of course, will move on is the top management, because top management will continue changing, right? So they were looking at if the top management's value will be the same, is it changing the strategy? If not, the culture will go stronger and stronger. Besides the top managers, what about the socialization? Now, what is socialization means? Now, let me here. Let's say this is socialization. What does it mean? That means that there are two things affecting us. Think of it. If you are going to work in a new organizations, what will happen? It is a new company. You don't know the company very well. So when you're going to work there, do you expect that you have to behave according to what the company want, right? So, like for example, when you come to Hang Seng U, you know it that Hang Seng U is university. So it is going to be a little different from your secondary school, right? You don't have to take all the government exam as much, for graduations. No, of course, you only need to take IO, those little things. So what happened? When you are going to be in a new environment, you will expect there are something new in their practice. So you'll be more open-minded, right? Anywhere you go, it's just like going to other country. You know that, oh, this is another country. They probably have a different culture, and they will expect us to behave a little differently. So you'll be very open. So for a newcomer to join this company, they usually will be more open-minded to accept something new. On the other hand, you also are more willing to change your behavior. Why? You want to change your behavior. If you work in the same company, you probably won't change it. But if you are working for a new company, you probably will be willing to change. Why? Because when you are in a new environment, you will work there and you will hoping that you are being accepted by the others, right? You hope that you'll have some friends. You hope that you'll enjoy working there. Now, in order to do that, you will be starting being more nicer to the people there. Am I correct? When you come to school, would you like to make some friends, new classmates? Because your old classmate, in secondary school is gone. So yeah, in the university, you need to make some new classmates and make friends with. So in the future, you know that you have a lot of group project and you probably will need to have some friends. So you'll be open-minded to make some changes. So you expect the change and you are going to willing to make the change. Now that is what we call socializations. Because without the socialization, it is difficult for you to share the value. Now, once you go through all that, that is what we call organization culture. So the founder has certain kind of behavior. He will influence his assistant. And as times go by, they will be affected by the top management. And the worker will do that because when they join the company, they are more open-minded, they're willing to change. And it turned out to be what? Turned out to be the organizational culture. All right. Now, so next thing we want to look at is what are the different culture that we are talking about and how we are going to deal with it, because we don't just want to know what is organization culture if that does not affect us in the running of the company. Now I purposely go into a little detail for this one. The reason is probably you may not concern about it, but in the future, when you're working for company, you will find that they are pretty serious affecting the way that, I was saying that you work there. Now, the first one is formal versus informal organizations. Now, what is formal or informal organizations? Formal means that there are a lot more rules and regulation, right? Now, how can you tell that the company is formal or informal? One thing, for example, is if you work, you after they hire you, they will give you a lot of training. You know that the company is very formal because what they want is that they want to train you the way they want you to. Now, other company will not give you that much training. Now, not that because they don't have money or they don't want to train you. Some will think that I don't want to train you so well that you lost your own personalities. So you know that some of the very creative company, they don't particularly change you because they don't want to give you that much rules and regulations to follow. And they want that you are going to show your own characters. Now, I'm not saying which one is good or bad, but what I'm trying to say is that, that formal and informal organization, how can you tell? Sometimes you look at, for example, do they give you a lot of training or not? If they do, that means that they really want to control your behavior. They want you to behave the way they want you to. The other one is individual versus, collective. Now, individual means that they don't particularly care if you like to work, by yourself. In other words, is that you have your own idea. You can do things the way that you are comfortable with. Now, other is collective. Collective means that they like to socialize the new worker. Why? Because they want the new workers to fit into the company the way they want to. Because some organization will say teamwork is very important. Now, so for example, if you're going to work for the police, they are more concerned about collective because they think that working at the police, you need to have that team spirit in order to achieve the job. Fixed and variable. Now, if the company have the culture is considered as fixed, fixed means what? They will have a fixed schedule, standard time, and everything has a schedule, may also mean that it is a detailed rule about the timing. So, for example, some company was saying that seniorities. If you work for the company for 5 years, you get a chance to promote. So that is what we call fixed. This organization is saying that you need to have working for the company for 5 years, then you will have certain benefit. Variable means that, for example, I have no time limit for you for promotion. If you do a very good job, you can get promoted within 1 year because what they consider is your performance, not the fixed schedule. Now, so that is fixed and variables. The other is called serial and random. Now, serial and random. Serial means that they do want to maintain, serial is that they will going to be have a role model or apprenticeship, whatever it is to shape your behavior in the organizations. Random means some of the company, they respect your own characters. So in other words, yes, some companies saying that, well, you have to change your behavior so you can blend in. The other was saying that you need to maintain your own characteristic. Why? Because some companies saying that, well, I will just place you to a department which will fit your characters. So is your character fit the job or the job fit your characters? That is the serial versus random. The last one is investiture and divestiture. Now that means, again, that investiture means that they will support your qualities. If you are good in a particular way of doing things, maybe they will find a job or position that you will maintain your characters and you'll enjoy doing it. Now, but divestiture means that they will again, shape your behavior and shape your qualities based on the role itself. So this one means that if you get promoted to the management, they probably want to change your behavior to a management's, what they expect a manager is supposed to do. All right, now, so you don't need to memorize all this, but this is a very good example to show. You work for a company, you ask, Are they very formal or informal? You can tell from what? Or did they train you and tell you exactly what you're supposed to do? Do they encourage us to work together? Or they encourage us to have our own individual idea? Do they have a schedule for me for example, promotions? Or if I'm very outstanding, I can just cut line and get promoted? Will the company will have some kind of people to influence my behavior? Or the last one is, will they give me a job that fit my characters? Or I have to change my behavior to fit into the team's expectations? Now, so these are what we consider as, some of the example of socializations that affect the newcomers. Okay, now let's stop a few minutes and think of. We start realizing something is called organization culture. It is something that which is different from organization to organizations. From the management point of view, organization culture is a little difficult to change because it evolved in a long period of time. Okay, then the next thing we're saying that, okay, so how many type of organization culture are there? Different kind will affect, the organizations operate differently. Okay. And the last item we were talking about is, okay, so we know what is organization culture, but how they are being developed. Once we understand all this, our next question we'll be thinking of, okay, if I find that the culture in the organizations are good, just maintain it, right? You don't have to do anything. Make sure that, that worker will share their value, continue with the new group. But what happens if we are not very happy with the culture? Is there any way we can, change it? Yes, we take some time. Now here, we want to give you some um, suggestions. That is, looking at how employee learn culture. So this can mean that at the beginning, or if you want to change the culture, how you are going to make the change itself. The technique is quite interesting. It's not like the regular management textbook about rules, regulation, or procedures. There are something quite interesting. Now, I'm going to show you 4 ways that if you really want to change the cultures of the organizations, or if you have newcomers come in and you really want him to learn the new one, here are some of the suggestions. All right. Now, the first one is stories. Story is a very powerful education method. You probably didn't realize it. Now, have you heard of this story? When you were a little kid, I don't know whether they're still telling this story anymore. 有冇聽過個古仔叫孔融讓梨？有冇啊？ Okay, what you learn from this story? What you learn from this story? Nothing. What is the story talking about? You know the story, right? Anyone who do not know the story? Come on, have some feedback. What's wrong with everybody today? Sometimes even online, I have some response. What we learn from this story? I think that most of the Chinese learn this because part of the education for they have it for you. At first, when I was a little kid, I heard this story. I was so happy. Why? Because I'm the elder daughter in the family. So after looking at, the story Hong Yong Yang Lei, what he gave the bigger pear to the elder brother, right? So after I heard that story, I was so happy. I'm the first one in the family. I'm the elder sister. Do you know what we learned from this story? And why we have this story for the little young kids? I'm surprised they're still, you know, telling this story nowadays. I would assume that they abandoned it a long time ago. No? What did you learn from the story? Nothing? Oh, come on. Anyone online? Are you listening? I'm not even asking you many concept, right? Oh, good. You learn nothing from the story. Huh? Minority, right? So if you're going to tell a little kid, you have to respect the elderly. They don't understand what he's talking about. Why should I respect him? Right? But if you tell the story that, oh, if you do this, you are a good boy. Actually, it is trying to blend this kind of concept in your mind, generation to generation. And that behavior of the Chinese is we respect the seniorities. You never ask why you have to respect or listen to your parents. You're saying that that's the way it is. Oh, ask why you do that. Oh, because he's my boss. And that is what you learn from the, story. Because you concept and theory, people don't remember it. Now, let me ask you more difficult questions. Did you watch the movie Superman? No, no, Spider-Man. There's so many funny men here. Spider-Man. You saw the movie? Did you have? No, such a good show. Anyone watch that? I knew it. You didn't know Spider-Man. How about the boys? What about boys? Um, do you know what people learn from Spider-Man? This movie. There is a sentence. It's very popular, and that turned out to be the education for the America that nowadays they talk about. Do you know? Exactly. You know, saying that Spider-Man's father is it his real father? Is not right. Grandfather? Is it grandfather? Oh, uncle. So it's not father. Wow, you must be his fan, huh? When he got killed, he told, Spider-Man. He's saying that um, you have a great power, and that is also your responsibility too. In other words, is that what is exactly the sentence say? Great power with great responsibility. And that turned out to be an educational concept for a lot of young American. Now, what is it? Yes, when you want to develop this kind of culture and belief, it is good that you use stories. Why? Because younger people will educate it and learn it. Now you can see America. We're saying that is they have the aggressive um, kind of organized country culture, right? How can you tell why they all grow up like that? You look at all their stories are saying that, oh, if someone got killed or someone get hurt, we have to help the, younger or weak groups, what we consider as you have to be a 英雄 to help the poor and the weak. And if something goes wrong, you have to fight back. What about the Chinese? The Chinese education is a little different. They are more concerned about more mellow. And sometimes, the Chinese were saying that, that can you resolve the problem instead of just using, very strong method, or in other words, is violent method. So when you look at the countries different, you can see in the background that how different they are. Now, so using story is quite important, that you are going to change people's concept. Now you say, yeah, what you talk about is little kid. Can a company, by using story to affect the culture of the company? Not easy, but I find one is excellent example, and it is a true case. You had a company called IBM Machineries. In the past, they are excellent in computers, but now, of course, they are behind, and they are now working on is the they are working on is not the telephone or those kind of technology. It's machinery. Have you heard of IBM? No. That is a very big in America. They call it International Business Machineries. And actually, I remember my first calculator I bought is from IBM. Is very famous technology company. Now, they have a head office in America. Now, IBM is a very big company, so I don't know whether you're aware of, in America, a company is not just one building or one floor. Actually, they have several buildings. It's just like the school, they have a different building. And of course, one building is for office. Some building is for, manufacturing. And there is one building is doing research and development. Now, because they are a high-tech company, so the department in research and development is confidential. In other words, if you work for the company, you still not necessarily have the power, the permission to go in, because that is, the development, secret department of the company. So it's just like other company. If you go in, you have to use the card, your company card. Now, the company card will let you go into the company, but certain building, if it is, you know, they're saying that you need permission, then the card will not allow you to go in because you don't have the permissions. Okay. This happens all the time in most of the organizations. It's just like our password, right? Some of the password, that only student can have it. Some is teachers, and some is the administration, and some, or like registry, can access to everybody's account. But that is a different level of privacy. So one day, the CEO, the biggest boss of IBM, actually, I think he just recently resigned because he's been working there for a long time. Thomas Watson, that was his name. So the big boss, Thomas Watson, with his assistant, went out for lunch. And after finished lunch, they came back to the company. But instead of going back to their office, they have certain reason. They have to go to the research and development building. Now, so when they walk up to the research and development building, Thomas Watson find out he forgot to bring his special permission ID card. Now, so, but he's thinking that I'm the big boss. Everybody know me, so he think that he'll be able to go in. But when he walk up to the machine, the entry gate, he doesn't have the card. So you know what? The security guard walk up and tell him, "Sir, you don't have a card. You cannot come into this building." Thomas was very surprised. Gee, I'm a big boss. How can you are not allowing me to come in, right? And his assistant will be very surprised and get angry. He told the security guard, "Do you see the picture over there? That is the boss. Some of the company have their boss picture in the lobby, right?" He said, "Look at that person. He is the boss. The picture is already there. How come you don't let him go in?" But security guard, I guess is, thinking that my job. He say, "Oh yeah, you look the same. But the company's rule is anyone who do not permission cannot go in. So sorry, I cannot let you in." Now the assistant, of course, very upset and start arguing with security guard. But Thomas Watson said, stop. Don't argue with the security. He is right. I'll wait here. You go back to my office and get my card. Of course, the assistant wasn't very happy, dealing with this stupid guard. But what happened? After he got the card, Thomas Watson got a chance to walk in. Now, this is nothing, just a special incident. But this story was popular in the company for years. Even we are as a foreigner, when we are in the school, about this story. Do you know what's so special about this story? And what did you learn about it? Now, I don't know whether Thomas Watson did this one purposely or not, but he sure achieved their organization culture. Now, I'm sure that after that incident, the assistant will be talking about it, right? You know what? Today there is a stupid guard that he won't even let the boss in. So it will be talking among sharing this kind of information with his colleague, right? Now, what do you think about the security guard? The security guard may also talk about this with his colleague. He say, "Oh my God, maybe I will get fired." The worker asks, "Why?" You know what? Because today the boss want to come in the building, and I stop him from coming. So he probably will not be happy with me. So what happened? This story was going wild, and everyone in IBM, after a few days, all heard this story. But do you know what this story is giving the message to everyone? Are you aware of what the message is giving to the company? What kind of culture they start creating? Huh? That's right. Rules are rules. The big boss have to follow the rules. So everyone should. So in other words, later on we're saying that, hey, can you give me an excuse? You say, no. Even the boss have to follow the rules. Everyone needs to. Yes, it is. So he created a story, and this story was going to, people will talk about it. The story will go faster than any communication system that you have, and they move on. And then everybody talk about it and heard of it. Now, I'm sure that all organizations will have story like that, and that may affect, that how people will, think of the common practice in the company. All right. Next one is regional. But before I'm going to talk about this, let's have a 15 minutes break. In the meantime, even it is a break, I want you to think of a question, and then you can answer me when we come back. The question is, if you are going to get married, would you like to have a fancy wedding? Or you just think marriage is a matter between two persons? And you probably would think that you both may like just to go for honeymoon and without coming up with a big ceremony.